Hey guys, welcome to another episode. We got a special episode today. Adam and I are just going to sit down and we're going to talk about some things with summer baseball with the Indiana Bulls. We're going to talk about Louisiana Knights, obviously, and we're going to kind of talk about the last month of lessons. We're going to kind of bring it back to episode 1 when we did the Hard 90 Challenge. We're going to kind of, share our expertise back and forth and share what we see. And when I say expertise, obviously, we're not saying we're, the best in the world, we're the end-all, be-all, because we're constantly learning. So I always be careful when I throw around that word, but obviously guys like us that do this day in and day out, we want to give as much information for everybody out there as possible. But that's a big thing. And so Adam, we're getting ready to start. I think it's this next weekend on Sunday up here in Indiana. What's the plan with the Knights right now in summer baseball?
Yeah. So we're actually playing this afternoon at 6:00. They're very fortunate to lock up the Biloxi Soccer Stadium, which is a AA stadium for the Milwaukee Brewers. They locked that month, the whole month of June. They're locked up, and they're going to be able to host nights on nights only games. They're trying to offer some teams maybe up and down the Gulf Coast that want to kind of get into some really small tournaments an option. We're still like Florida rules are different than Alabama, different than Mississippi, different than Louisiana. So they have multiple players from different areas, so they're just trying to figure out what's the best way to kind of go about this right now. So we're actually playing this afternoon at 6:00. It's pretty cool. They allowed us to use their MILB cam. So for parents as well as family members to watch, they're offering just like a regular gate fee, just like if you're coming to watch the Shuckers play. I actually have a couple of family members and some friends coming over tonight to watch the 16-year-old black team. We're playing the 16-year-old gray team with the Knights, and then we were supposed to play tomorrow morning at 11:15, but we have the tropical depression that's supposed to hit. We're already getting some rain out right now, but I think we might be able to sneak in tonight. But tomorrow they already went ahead and canceled it, so everything will get pushed back again to next weekend. They're going to try to play 4 games, and then the team I'll be coaching will actually be not playing next weekend because they're going to take off for Hoover on Monday to play a 16U national championship with perfect game. So that's kind of the update here. What's the update going on with the Indiana Bulls organization?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that's pretty cool that they're renting out the minor league stadium. I remember you told me about that. That's awesome right there.
Yeah, I mean, for them to be able to lock that up, I don't know what strings they pull, but it just talks about how, I guess, an organization, they're looking out for their players. If you can't go play in these tournaments right now, it's what sucks. I understand, but you get to offer a high school kid a chance to play on a AA field that's been around for 2 or 3 years, and it's a beautiful setup. I mean, I think they're all super excited about it.
Yeah, that's definitely a summer baseball program doing things right there. Looking out for the kids and trying to make the best experience possible. That's pretty cool. So for us and the guys that are watching right now, obviously I'm dressed like a bro in a tank top. So it's
relaxed Saturday.
Yeah, it's chill Saturday. So we actually are starting a perfect game tournament next weekend, but the governor is not allowing us to get started until the 14th. So it would actually be Sunday only. But I know there's been some word going around that maybe it's possibly the governor might open up earlier. So we'll do like Friday through Sunday next week. And then we have a thing called the Midwest Prospect League. And it's a really big league where it's a showcase only format. That'll be the next weekend. And it starts on Tuesday. It's Tuesday through Saturday. The week after next. And we have a lot of you got the hitters that show up, obviously us, Canes, Midwest will show up. Cincy Flames. We got a lot of organizations in the Midwest, and we've had Action Baseball out of Texas come to it as well in the past. There's a lot of good programs, and it's basically just to put as best amount of programs as possible, and basically create like a 5-game showcase. And we used to have 2 of those every single year. We'd have one the early part of the summer and one at the end part of the summer. We're actually redoing that again at the end of the summer, the end of July, early August. And there's some cool things going on. Like right now, obviously it's, the type of personality that I am, I have to know hey, what are we doing? Are we doing this? We're doing that. I want to make sure the pitchers are ready to go and taking care of the arms and everything. Cause that's obviously, number one priority is that everybody stays safe plays safe after everybody being off. But we got a cool opportunity in August. The Bulls are working with a media outlet with us possibly playing on ESPN against some programs here in the Midwest, which we're really excited about. Everything's not confirmed yet, but they're trying to use Victory Field, which is the Indianapolis Indians. It's AAA stadium in Indianapolis. And they're trying to get a location set up and everything. So I think that'll be really, really cool from an organizational standpoint, but also for people that want to watch summer baseball. Cause I've always thought if you could get some of the best teams and you could record some of those games that are at Lake Point or at Grand Park against some of those teams, I can remember us facing the Nashville Knights, and we had we had a 94 lefty on the bump and they had a 95, 96 righty on the bump. And it was just awesome baseball. And so I'm really excited about the summer and the fact that even though it's going to be a little bit different and the people, like obviously scouts not being able to come and the NCAA shutting that down through the end of July, that really sucks. But like Grand Park, and I know some facilities, and you just mentioned that, you know, they're going to use the minor league cams and minor league baseball cams. Like they're going to live stream a lot of stuff now. And so people that are listening that want to know about recruiting, like it's not the end of the world right now. There's a lot of guys that are going to be not only watching live stream these showcases, and like we got a scout day this coming Monday where we're going to live stream everything as well. But these coaches are still going to call and they're going to ask us questions, because even if they see people in person, they always will call and ask us coaches. And so you still need to be playing for those players and parents that are listening. These athletes still need to be playing like everybody's always watching, because somebody always is.
No, I couldn't agree more. And it's funny, this is my first year coaching, I guess, with the Elite Travel Ball organization, as well as like some upper class. We've had usually, I think 14-year-old, when I was running it myself, was the highest that we ever went. So we're stepping into that recruiting world where this week I had calls, like 5 different phone calls from coaches asking about players already. And I've only been around them. Last week we had kind of our showcase weekend. Thursday night was live at Bats indoor facility, pitching versus hitting, and then Friday we were able to make it to the field to get some practice time in. So I've been around the guys just for 2 days, basically 4 hours total. So from the coaching perspective, like when I'm talking to these guys, I've only really got to see them offensively, as well as during the practice. I was working out with the outfielders mainly, while Chris and 2 of the other coaches were hanging with the infielders. So he asked about some infield stuff, and I said, look, I can't comment on it. I haven't really seen him yet. But what was cool was, so one of the kids I'll use for example is in Louisiana right now. A lot of the fields are shut down, so he can't get access. Where coaches are saying, "We've seen you hit. We want to see you field ground balls at shortstop." Well, he can't get on the field right now, unfortunately. So, what the plan is tonight is, in between innings, instead of the first baseman rolling ground balls, I'll go to the on-deck circle, whack him some balls, make him move to his left, move to his right. That way, his family, as well as anybody that wants the video, will get some video for him so he can send to these coaches. Because, like you brought up a great point, is this is all different for everybody. But I think now more than ever, and specifically one college coach mentioned that, hey, Adam, I'm going to be calling you pretty much every day this summer, just because you're going to have to be the eyes. And I said, look, that's perfectly fine. And that just goes back to how we've always talked about how relationships are so important. Where if we didn't be truthful and honest with coaches or with players or with parents, our reputation wouldn't be up there that high where we're not getting asked about kids. So I think we both take pride in that, and we have to kind of make the best decision possible. I mean, obviously we want every kid to go play at a Division I level, but it's up to us that we kind of have to do the best we can. And that goes with mental makeup to how do you act off the field? Are you a good teammate? To what is your 60 time? What is all that other stuff that they're going to ask about too? So it's a pretty neat experience. It's my first time, so I'm going to be leaning on Sean a lot, asking him questions, as well as just kind of picking everybody's brain, because I think we're all in a scenario now where there is nobody to, hey, back in 1980 when this happened, what did you guys do? Because nobody's ever been through something like this. So
absolutely,
it's going to be interesting. But man, that ESPN thing would be freaking awesome, because you got to think that now Little League World Series isn't happening. Those things that they put out there, heck, I think we're both sitting here. I don't think baseball. I don't think it's going to happen this year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think the MLB is going to play. So now we're maybe giving these kids a chance. It is good baseball. Number one, you mentioned the talent that could be there, as well as I think people are just hungry for watching sports right now, and especially in the summertime when they're hanging out. Maybe they're out on vacation, but they still have a game going on that they can sit there and watch, or when it's eating dinner at night. Hey, let's put this 17U national championship game on. I promise you people will watch that stuff there. So that's going to be a really cool experience if y'all get to get that locked up with ESPN and stuff. And then
absolutely.
You mentioned your showcase tournament. So is it just games only, or do they do like a showcase day prior?
So we used to have every year in the Bulls, we used to have, even back when I played, back in the day, forever ago, it seems like we used to have a scout day every year, and it was different back then, obviously, because you didn't go on visits and official visits until your junior, your senior, your fall of senior year after your junior season. And obviously things have changed dramatically now. People commit as young as, freshmen, and they go on visits then. So they kind of started changing a little bit and kind of went away from our scout day. And now we're going to plan on having a scout day that kind of kick off the summer every summer. It'll be usually in the future, after the first weekend. But it's an opportunity for guys to get on TrackMan. We'll have TrackMan out there and and basically the see spin rates for pitchers, obviously the velocity, and see what their pitches are like. But also for hitters to hit, see what their exit velocity is, and being able to see it on video, you're going to be able to see if they're able to hit gap to gap. And then obviously watching catchers, and they're going to actually break down catchers and bullpens. So break down how they receive and stuff, which that's a big thing. And we've had, Jeff Scott obviously on there about catching, and Dan talk about catching, which is a huge thing that isn't talked about enough at our age levels. But now we're going to start doing that every year. And then it's usually our second or third week is that MPL that's hosted at Grand Park. That is a situation where it's showcase format where it's a 2 hour and 15-minute time limit. We're essentially just saying, hey, go out there and play. It's not we're not winning a certain amount of games to get into a tournament, even though I prefer sometimes the competitor in me wants to have, hey, let's win a pool and then just play, a semifinal round of 4 teams and that, which I think would be cool. But most of the time the kids will compete anyway in that showcase format, but it's cool because it's like, hey, let's put our best guys against their best guys and let's just go at it. And a lot of times coaches will hit, 10 guys. Some teams will hit 11 guys to make sure as many guys get as many ABs as possible. And we'll rotate pitchers. So like if we have 5 games and I have 9 or 10 pitchers, I'll do like a 4-3 split to make sure, like, hey, I don't care if we're down 3 runs or up 5 runs or it's a 1-0 game. I'm going to make sure that pitcher gets his innings no matter what. And so we'll flip guys a lot of times. And I'll try to bring the guys that come in relief. I try to bring them in twice in a weekend. So if you throw on a Wednesday or Thursday, keep their pitch count obviously low and follow pitch count guidelines, and then try to bring them back on Sunday because it gives them a chance to get as many eyes as possible. Because usually when coaches are watching in person, like they'll watch on Thursday, and maybe certain schools won't be there on that Thursday because they're watching this guy over, somewhere else. And they come back on Sunday. That gives that kid 2 opportunities to pitch. Which especially like the pitcher onlys that we have in the Bulls, and I know we'll have an episode in the future. I thought about an episode of talking about pitcher onlys and when to make that decision and stuff. But to kind of talk about right now is it gives those pitcher onlys like, hey, they're more involved with the games. They're going to be in multiple opportunities, and they're an integral part of the program in the summer. So I love that. And it's really cool to have that at the beginning of the summer because it creates that showcase format and allows guys to show off and show what they can do against good teams too. Because that's another thing is we talked about this before, but a college coach cannot analyze if a kid can hit at the next level if he's facing 75 to 80 mile an hour, right? Like we want to see, the Adam Heislers of the world, hitting 90 plus mile an hour fastballs like you did really well. Right. And basically be able to see, hey, can this guy recognize spin? Can this guy catch up to fastballs consistently? And not only is he catching up, is he hitting barrels? And I think you hit the nail on the head earlier because in this showcase format, and one thing I want to touch on is you talked about mental makeup, and that's so important. The first thing that coaches will ask us, like they'll say, hey, what kind of kid is he? Before they talk about tools and anything like that. Because if they ask him about us, they're already interested in him, right? Yep. But they want to see what kind of person is he coachable, and to people that are listening, is he a dick? Like people want to know if he is one. And that's a big deal. And then they'll ask about parents essentially too, if the parents are over involved or not involved. But that's something right now that, like I said before, like guys, like give everything you got this summer, the people that are listening right here, and showcase your ability, but also make sure you're constantly working on your weaknesses. If you have a guy that if you're a guy that kind of hangs your head too much, like I can tell you right now, like I failed a lot in college and I failed a lot in this game. And I was successful a lot too. But like, once I figured out how to let failure and adversity, I hate using the word failure, but allow adversity to be a part of the game and a part of the road, like you're going to have those 0 for 4 games. It is what it is. As long as you're competing and giving everything you got and you're helping your teammates out and giving everything you got defensively, you are there and you're giving 100%, and those guys are going to appreciate that. Because a lot of times scouts are looking, hey, it's easy when you go 4 for 4, like mental makeup wise, like what are you doing 0 for 4? And I know Kit used to talk about it all the time too at South. And it's something we talk about constantly here, but you got to be productive toward the team. You got to be a productive individual in all assets of the game.
Yeah. And I mean, think about it. It's like, how many games did you ever have where you were 4 for 4 with 2 doubles, you made 3 diving catches, and you stole 4 bases? Yeah. Like it's so hard to have a game like that. And that's what I tell guys in this game anyway, is maybe you go 0 for 4, but change the game on defense, or maybe you have a really good game offensively and you make an error or two, you overthrow your cutoff. It's just so hard to have the perfect game. And that's why we don't talk about that a lot. I mean, because it's physically almost impossible. So for listeners, whether you're a youth athlete or a parent, try to think about when's the last time your kid had one of those games. Maybe like when he was 9 years old or something. I mean, it's just very, very difficult to master all aspects of the game. And you physically walk out of there and be like, that was the best game I've ever played. Now, you might have one of those things like that movie, The Natural, when lightning strikes you and you just have the game of your life. But besides that, a lot of the times you're going to face that adversity. And, hey, 1 for 4 with 2 barrels, you lined out twice. What I always tell guys is like this, just the stats don't tell the whole story. And it's more frustrating than anything. So when hitters come in after their tournaments on the weekend, I ask them, how did you go this weekend? And it was funny. There was one kid that brought up, I struck out 3 times. I'm like, oh, man, it's part of game. It's part of baseball. It is what it is. And I was like, well, what about your other bats? Well, I went 8 for 11. I said, buddy, listen to me. Don't you ever talk about 3 strikeouts again if you went 8 for 11 on the weekend. Like, you know how impressive that is? I know, but they're strikeouts. So I was like, we've got to flip the script right here. Your brain has to think the other way. And it was just so cool that he didn't know any better just because he always heard striking out is bad.
Yep.
And I struck out 3 times, so I didn't do good this weekend. And he didn't look at the other part of the game. So it goes back to the mental makeup kind of aspect. One thing I want to hit on you with, Sean, is what I noticed with our first practice is overall, I would say, so I think we have 15 or 16 guys on our roster. There was a handful that are a little behind than the other ones. You can tell that these guys are serious. They want to work. The biggest thing I've seen was the velo drop in pitchers from where they were. And we know the answer, but I want you to kind of elaborate on why some of these pitchers aren't where they were maybe when they did the tryout or where they were at the beginning of the high school season.
Yep, obviously. And that I love talking about this stuff because I'm passionate about it. And for anybody that's on my team that may be listening to this, I'm not talking down about anybody here. So, I got a really good squad this year. I got really great young men. So I'm really excited about the summer. But obviously we've got a lot of guys that are ready and we got a lot of guys that aren't. I think it's probably about 60-40, 60% were ready and 40% aren't. And again, no excuses. You should have been throwing and you should have been running, should have been taking care of your body. But at the same time, I understand, you don't have the weight room facilities. Maybe you didn't have somebody to throw with. So there's no wrong. Nobody's in the wrong right here. If you could do the things that you could control, if you had the opportunity to throw, which for the most part, most people did, or at least minimum running. And I'll kind of touch on this in a little bit, but so the guys that have been doing stuff, they're ready to go. I actually just had one kid who had been out for a year and a half, and I'm not going to use any names, obviously, but I had one kid who was out for a year and a half. He just hit a PR at 92 on the bump that day.
Awesome.
And his first outing, he was 89 and it touched 90. He was 87, 89 or 86, 89, touched 90. And what I do every single year, and I'm not taking credit for any of this, so just get that out of the way so people understand that. But every kid who achieves everything, that's all him. I'm just here to guide people. That's all I'm trying to do. So I give pitchers a specific running program and a specific plyometric program and what to do in between starts, increased blood flow, all this stuff. A lot of things that I've just learned over the years, a lot of things I learned from, and as Adam, as you know, my shoulder injuries. We will implement a sprint. Not really I'm not a long distance guy, as I talk about all the time on social media. It's not the same energy system that pitchers use on the bump. So I'm a very big short explosive sprint guy, power guy, hill sprints, sled sprints, short distance. We do a lot of 10-yard. We do a lot of 20 yards. We do mixed positions, push-up position. I'll let the football guys do 40-yard starts every now and then if they want to. Side starts, a little bit of everything. And then we'll do some plyometrics. We'll do triple broad jumps, a lot of lateral bounds, lateral jumps as well. But we'll do this after they throw and between their starts. And the reason is, and to kind of explain this to people listening, the body works together. And what drives your body on the bump, just like you drive and hitting, is your bottom half, your core, right, and your posterior chain. So if our legs break down on the bump, our velocity is going to go down. Those are our drivers. And if we're getting tired in our legs, there's a lot more stress on our arm. And our arm has a possibility of obviously breaking down. And we want to make sure, like Frank Core was on the podcast last week, he's talking about, hey, the pitchers only have so many bullets. Mm-hmm. And I believe that as well. I mean, there's some guys that have a lot more bullets in their arm than others, right?
Yep.
There's some guys that can throw forever. and some guys that had biomechanical issues, and some guys like I was born with a hooked chromium in my shoulder. So my labrum was going to fray no matter what. My labrum was going to be toast no matter what. It just was what it was. But if we can control the controllables, and I talk about this all the time, like if I know that I can take care of my legs, like if the guys, and we talked about this in the Hard 90 program, the guys that weren't running and doing their conditioning and doing their strength training, what they could control, like if you didn't have a weight room, cool. You're sprinting 7 days a week. So your legs are always still going to be there. You're doing plyometrics. There's so much information out there. But not to get off on a tangent, we started to implement that after day one. And you could see the guys immediately after we've had 4 practices and 3 scrimmages now. You could see the guys that have been doing it, because specifically this kid that hit 92, like he threw 30 pitches in the scrimmage. He's like, Coach, I'm good, man. Let's go. Let's go. And you could still see him get a little bit tired. But we had another kid who was 91 in February at a preseason All-State thing, and he's been in the low 80s to mid 80s right now. So not a big deal. The kid's going to be back to where he was, but he told me he had been throwing, and I had to kind of do the coach thing and kind of pressure him a little bit. And then he admitted that he hasn't been throwing as much as he should and doing things he should. So he was honest with himself. And I got another kid that was 89, 90 every single outing, the last 3 outings, and he's a little sore, and that's normal too. So a lot of guys are going to get soreness in their elbows, the flexors, the extensors. There's going to be soreness in the arms a little bit. Now, obviously, we got to understand the difference between soreness and pain, and nobody has that, obviously. So I try to make sure that I implement some prehab, which some people hate that word, but like stretches in the flexors, stretches in the extensors, working on keeping the forearm strong, working on keeping the shoulder strong. We do a lot of scapular mobility, and we do a lot of stability overhead with the bands that I like to implement. But there's so many things that go into pitching that will correlate to your velocity. And I've had, like I was talking about this the other day, is I've got 10 years of running that I've used for pitchers. And there was a 2-year gap where I didn't do it because I had a pitching coach, and I kind of let him do it. And I saw some drops that I didn't like when it comes to velocity. And so I wanted to implement that running as much as I could, and nothing against those guys. It just was what it was. There's different philosophies and stuff. And I always try to make sure, as a head coach, I try to make sure everybody's wants to coach and do what they want to do. But there's certain things, like when Mercer was on here, like, hey, hitting and nutrition is my thing. So I'm going to teach these things, and this is my thing. Like, when it comes to mechanics and the hitting aspect and the pitching aspect, everybody's going to have some similarities. Everybody's going to have some differences. But when it comes to strength and conditioning, like for me, it's like, hey, this can correlate to so many sports, and I've seen it. Like I've seen the work for a long time and help increase velocity or maintain velocity. So for me and the listeners that are listening, and I know I'm kind of long-winded right here, but make sure you guys are doing this stuff. Make sure you guys are that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays in between your Thursday through Sundays or Wednesday through Sundays. Make sure you're in the weight room. Make sure you're doing your sprint work. Make sure you're keeping your legs in shape. If you just throw one time a week and you do nothing on Monday, Tuesday, your arm is going to break down. And we are a firm believer of, I'll give guys like 1 day off a week, say, hey, after your hardest day on the bump, like take that next day off from throwing, but you're still doing your bands, you're still doing your running, you're still doing your lifting. And then they throw a long toss 6 days a week. And I can get into long toss, but like, you don't have to go max effort on long toss every day. There's low intensity days, there's medium intensity days, there's high intensity days. Just like, sprint work. Like if I don't want to run people in the wall all the time. So there'll be lighter days on sprint. If I try to make somebody squat 500 pounds every single day, sooner or later, it's going to be a problem. So programming things effectively, knowing what you're doing is obviously a part of it. Make sure guys are getting rest, because you don't want it to turn into a conditioning workout where guys they're not putting in max force in their sprints. Make sure they're getting fully recovered, while at the same time challenging their ability to recover quickly. So I know that was kind of long-winded, guys, but I get really passionate and I get really jacked about that stuff, because I love seeing that. I love seeing, like, that kid that hit 92 the other day. He was so surprised, and that was just such a good feeling to see a kid, like, his hard work and what he's been doing the last year and a half really paid off. That was cool.
No, that is really cool. And I think just from a player standpoint, it's so much easier when you have a schedule. And so from your standpoint, like, you're giving them a schedule prior to pitching, and then as soon as they get done pitching, here's what their schedule is. And we kind of have a similar story. It's a younger athlete. I think he's 15. I don't coach him, but I saw him on the Twitter page, and he was up to 84 to 86. And like, all of the scouts, or not the scouts, but the Knights coaches were saying that they've never seen him above 78. So it's just a cool thing for him to they've never seen him go up 78. He comes back after this quarantine stuff, and all of a sudden he's 84 to 86, and they're like, wow, where did this come from? And now he's on the map now, from what I stand. And you can tell that he admitted it. I think they did an interview with him, and he talked about he worked on some mechanical things. He worked really hard during the quarantine, and it was just cool to see a success story like that, because we tried to tell a lot of the athletes during the Hard 90 Challenge, like, you're going to find out who put the work in and who didn't, and clearly it's showing now. As well as we had our first field practice. Our main thing was we're going to rep them out as much as possible. They need to be back in their cleats, running around, because a lot of these kids haven't been wearing spikes lately. You got to get the ankles back, the feet back, the shins, everything else. And ours was a very up-tempo practice. They got to let us pick our practice schedule. And me and the head coach, we met. We decided, like, look, we're really going to pound them into rep, whether it's outfield individuals, infield individuals, then we'll get into funkos. But it was a lot of non-wasted time. We actually had one of our players throw up, but it was because of what he said. It said he ate something bad before, but I think he knows exactly what it was.
That's usually
it was good. But afterwards, like the next couple of days, I asked him, hey, were you sore? Yeah, my butt, my legs, my blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, good. That means that you're starting to get back into game shape. Because I think we both know is you can train as much as possible, but there's nothing like being out there in the field, moving, and there's movements, and you're not running just straight sprints. You're moving around the base. You're running around the ball. So it was very good just to get the guys back out there. And like what I compared it to was it's basically spring training. Like we have to set a base again, and we got to get back to it. And unfortunately, they're expecting to accelerate super fast in this. So tonight's going to be really interested in this game just to see where everybody stands right now. I think we can both agree that pitchers are ahead of hitters right now, and that's normal. It's just going to be that way because hitters haven't been able to work on timing. I mean, you can sit in on the velo machine we talk about as much as possible. There was actually one that really jumped all over the fastball the other night, and I asked him, hey, what do you do in your training? And he said at least 5 days a week he's sitting off the fastball velocity machine. And you could tell because he was all over the fastball. So it was really good just to see that it kind of had worked for him. And going forward now, let's just play the game of baseball and see where everybody's at. And I would say for athletes is don't have your expectations so high right now. Yeah, you always want to be the best, but don't go into it like if you go 0 for 3 tonight and don't get any knocks, like thinking, oh, crap. Like I felt so much better during the high school season. Now the quarantine, like don't make excuses about it. That's the main thing. Don't make excuses. If you're throwing velocity's not where it was, don't make excuses about it. Just let's get back to where you were and get back in the swing of things.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is what it is. Like you either were working or you weren't working. And even then, some guys that were working, if you weren't able to throw off the bump or a situation like that, maybe you're down a few miles an hour. And it's not a big deal. And what I was telling my guys is like, we're going to treat June like it's spring training. Yep. We're getting everybody back to game shape. And this is essentially for us in Indiana, like this is essentially, and for you guys too, this is basically like February for all of our guys. And don't get down because there are guys that are really down about velocity. There are guys that are down about timing, hitting timing, which we'll talk about a little bit more here in a minute. But, that's a part of the process. Like there are guys that I've seen guys at 85 mile an hour at the beginning of the summer that didn't really throw much in the spring because whether they were the 4th or 5th guy in their staff and end up at 88 to 90. It just, getting the arm in shape. And I've seen huge gains. I had a kid who's now at Louisville. I remember his freshman year and we really broke down how to do long toss. He was 84 mile an hour and he increased like 88, 89 mile an hour after the summer, just because he unlocked what he already had. His arm just got in shape and he was able to utilize his body properly. So guys that are listening, like I get it. You're frustrated. You want to feel like you're in game shape, but people that are watching, people understand like, hey, July and that early August, specifically like for us, like those are going to be the really prime months where we start seeing guys shine, seeing guys in shape. It's always a process. To be an elite athlete, you can't just go from 0 to 100 mile an hour. And Frank Core talked about it last episode. I'll bring him up again. It's like, if I was preparing the right way in the preseason and, spring, I would hit the ground running in the season, but he was always preparing to get into shape. He wasn't like the one year that he didn't do it. He's like, I knew I was off. I should have prepared better. And this is our preparation stages, guys. So understand that part of the process and kind of going from here. When it comes to the hitting, Adam, what have you kind of said and kind of help guys to kind of help with the timing, help them jump on fastballs and be able to adjust? Like what are some of the big things you've been teaching guys to try to help them out?
Yeah, so the other night in the Knights practice, the main focus I wanted to get across to them was the fastest way to get your timing back is to be aggressive. And so to get your swings off. I know you want to see some pitches and track and all that stuff, but if you're limited on swings, and I think each guy got 3 at bats maybe. So I just told him, I want you to be as aggressive as you can. Now, obviously, I don't want you swinging stuff over your head, but anything close in the zone, just get your swing off. It doesn't have to be pretty. Nobody's here watching. We're inside of a cage, so nobody's hitting home runs or doubles or anything. We just want to see you be aggressive in the zone early, and that way your eyes are working back to your hands are working, your barrel's working. Everything's just getting back into sync. Because you can go watch and stand there on bullpens on the side, and that's good. We love doing that too because it's the best way to track and get back to seeing the ball all the way through the mitt and seeing spin. But when you get in a situation where you're getting to swing, be aggressive. And I can't teach that enough of these kids is if that first pitch fastball is there, jump all over it. And I promise you're not going to be upset that you did. And that's just how I think the timing is going to continue to come back. For some of the younger kids that have been coming in is pretty much the same thing, but it's hit more. I've been asking guys lately, how often are you hitting? There was a couple 14-year-olds in last week, and they're getting, we struggled over the weekend, we didn't hit. And I was like, well, be honest with me, how many times a week do you hit? Not just with me, but like on your own, wherever. And they're like, like twice a week. I was like, guys, you're getting to the age now where you need to hit almost every 5 days a week, 4 days a week at maximum or at minimum. You have to do this stuff. Yes, it's not 10-year-old anymore where you just show up on Saturdays and Sundays and bang. Like, this game is getting harder each year you go up, and that's why you see people fall off. Like, every year you're going to play with a group of friends, and then as you keep growing up and getting older, slowly but surely people start dropping off the cliff because it gets harder, and this game weeds people out. And some guys can't handle the failure part of it. Some guys get burned out on it, but you'll see the cream that rises to the top. So that standpoint is hit more. Like I said, it doesn't have to be with one of us. It's go with daddy. Go in the backyard, hit off the tee, just swing. Because I think that's one thing that I've been noticing a lot with guys is if you want to be a good hitter, you've got to hit. You've got to practice it. It doesn't just come natural. And so that's one thing I've been telling a bunch of the guys. What about you? What have you been telling some of your guys about the timing aspect? Because I think we're both getting the same questions of, Coach, my timing's off.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned that to kind of prelude this here, that you mentioned like it was easier when you're younger and it gets harder and harder as you get older, because that's something that is missed on a lot of people. Like at the younger age groups, and for people that are listening, that's anywhere between 8-year-old to 14 years old. You know, you are going, the more athletic guys, the stronger guys are for the most part going to dominate. And the guys and there are smaller guys that if they're super athletic and they have good relative strength, like those guys are going to do well as well. But just like Adam said, like it's going to weed you out the older you go. Like that 14 to 15-year-old year is a huge jump. That 15-year-old, 16-year-old is an even bigger jump. And then 16 to 17 is a huge jump because at 17 years old, we're pretty much playing against grown men a lot of times. And if you're behind physically, it's going to show. So, and I think that's where a lot of parents will get confused and they kind of get angry. Well, Johnny, you know, down the street was a stud at 12 years old. And I go, well, you know, there's a lot of people that were like that. And as you get older, like there's certain metrics that we need to be able to see. And there's certain abilities that you're going to have to be able to compete with and successfully compete with. So I really like that. And I that's something that we talk about all the time. But saying that when it comes to the timing, I think another thing that you hit the nail on the head about is the people are passive right now. And I think it's because, you know, they kind of get in that relaxed environment, and there's a lot of personalities that go into it too. Like one thing that I've noticed is the guys that have kind of like a more go-getter kind of intense personality, they're jumping on fastballs.
They got the swagger. Yep.
Yeah. And I kind of I watched that over years. And I'm like, man, like the guys that are kind of passive, that kind of laid back, you know, unless they're like, you know, God really physically gifted them. They're kind of behind on fastballs. And, you know, that's something I've seen, like the guys that are ready to go, the more intense people. And I got this kid that we picked up that was an organization last year. He's intense. He works hard. He busts it. He's been crushing fastballs and pumping 92 off the bump. Like, and that guy, like, I don't have to worry about this kid. Like the guy's going to compete. Like, I just know that the only thing I'm going to work with him on is being a leadership, because guys like that, we want to make sure that shows off in the other guys and he lifts people up with him. But kind of like what you said, like, I've been paying attention to lots of hitters counts. So if guys are up 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, I want to make sure they're taking a hack. And I want to make sure they're taking an aggressive hack where they're trying to do some damage. Obviously not trying to get too big, but trying to put the ball hard, you know, in gap to gap. And so that's another thing that I talked about with a lot of guys is like, hey, you know, when you're in those hitting counts, there's no excuse to be late on the fastball. There's no excuse at all. Like, you should be putting the barrel to the ball. If you're at this age level and you're playing at this kind of travel baseball program, you're considered one of the best hitters in the state, right? So at this point in time, we got to hold ourselves accountable and give a little tough love right here. Like, hey, if you're late on the fastball, I don't care if it's our third scrimmage or our second scrimmage, get mad about that and obviously make an adjustment. And when I say about get mad is I'm not saying throw stuff. I'm saying like, hey, what am I doing when I'm not at the plate? Am I getting timing and working on my stride, working on my separation while I'm watching the pitcher? Am I actually taking hacks? Because another thing is like guys will stride and kind of work on timing, and then they'll talk to their buddy like, hey, what's up, dude? What are you doing later? And instead of actually taking a hack and make sure your swing is happening when the ball's in the hitting zone. And that's something that's talked about a lot. And I know me and you have heard it. It's like, that's common sense, right? But I can make it mandatory, like the on deck guy. And even though a lot of umpires get upset about this, I'll say the guy that's in the hole, get on the field and work on the timing. And there's always umpires that are like, hey, get off the field.
Only two people.
Yeah. And so I'm like, hey, if they call you out, no big deal. You know what I mean? They'll give us a warning, get in the dugout from there. We'll just keep going. But that's the two biggest things is in like you said, be more aggressive, but like anticipate a fastball all the time. And I know we had Mercer on here that we emailed out to our clients and stuff. And he was talking about, hey, like we're always ready for the fastball. We will adjust the off speed in certain counts and certain pitches, but we're ready for the fastball. And the big leaguers hit fastballs. And like Frank Horst said, like he that's what he does best. And if you know what your strengths are, you need to aggressively attack that. And one other thing I'm kind of going to jump into that really irritates me, and I have to be more patient, obviously, but I also have to be aggressive when I'm teaching this is, say we got a guy and he's faced two hitters and you see him working away, and he's not throwing inside, or it's a certain count. It doesn't throw very hard. Maybe he throws 84, right? What is this guy going to do in hitters counts or maybe early in the count? He's going to try to get ahead with the fastball. And he's going to try to work away. And so maybe our approach that's maybe middle third of the field, maybe we make that adjustment to its middle to the right side of the field, because that's where he's going to throw. We're going to play those percentages. And if he's throwing 84 mile an hour and I've got good hands, we can still turn on that middle end part of the pitch. If it's really inside, obviously that's what we're giving up to be able to take away that outside part of the plate. But we've got to understand what pitchers are trying to do. We got to understand what our strengths are and what we can do. And we can't just say, hey, I'm looking for this inside fastball right down the middle, waist high. This is the only one I'm going to pitch, because I see guys constantly every single year, even very good hitters that do this before. Like we had a guy a couple of years ago. He ended up being drafted first round in high school. Phenomenal player, a phenomenal athlete. But even guys like that, like you'll get this 2-0 pitch. It's on, the middle third of the plate or middle outer third of the plate. It's an easy ball for them. Boom, double in the gap. Well, because it wasn't in this perfect wheelhouse, now all of a sudden you see a kid chasing a curveball in the dirt later. And that really bothers me. I don't like seeing guys missing fastballs and end up chasing curveballs later on. Put yourself in a good position to hit. If you're at this age level, you can cover, if you put, how many baseballs cover the plate, 7 baseballs across the plate, you can cover 5 of those 7 baseballs at any point in time. Unless the guy is throwing, 90 plus, then you make adjustments from there. But those are the kind of things I kind of talk about and talk about with those guys. And a lot of this stuff too is, I got to make sure guys understand what I'm trying to get across here. Like, I'm not trying to change who you are as a hitter. I'm just trying to open your eyes up. Like, hey, there's more than just what you've always done as an option right now.
No, that's the biggest thing is you brought up a great point, and I don't think either one of us talked to a college scout or a pro scout and they say, Johnny really hits the curveball, but he can't hit the fastball. Like, that just doesn't work. You're never going to play at the high levels if you can't hit the fastball. So if you can't hit that one, you might want to start practicing hitting against upper velocity. That's the only way you're going to get better at it. And the slow pitch cage stuff isn't going to work. It's not helping you at all.
Nope.
And I think another thing that drives me crazy, and I haven't been around this team yet, but is if a guy throws a nasty slider and guys come back to the dugout and he tells me how nasty this guy's slider is, and it drives me insane. And it just puts a whole, like, everybody in the dugout starts looking for that slider. Well, number one, if it's so nasty, you're not going to hit it. So quit looking for that, like Jeff was saying the other day.
Yeah.
And then number two is you're just getting in your own head. Like, maybe you swung at a slider that was in the dirt, so you thought it was nasty. I think a lot of us hitters, and one thing I want to preach to these guys this summer is we give these pitchers too much credit sometimes, man. Like, they're not all, oh my gosh, this guy was the best. Hey, all right, he got the best of me that time, but he's not anything I haven't seen before. And once they kind of get over that and they have that mental approach of, hey, I'm taking this pitch away. If that slider is so nasty, like, going back to it is, do your best not to swing at it until you get 2 strikes. And then you just try to fight and see what you can. But it all goes back to hunting the fastball. And we say it, coaches say it. I just don't know how many times people have to keep saying this for kids to understand of, I want to hit the fastball. I don't care how nasty the curveball is. Don't go up there looking for it, or the slider is. So don't go up there looking for it. So I'm glad that you were able to hit on that standpoint. And it is, you're not changing a hitter. You're just opening up the eyes. And I think that's what's so cool about us is we're willing to adapt with new technology. We're willing to understand maybe new philosophies on hitting, but also we've played the game at high levels. So now we bring the experience of how a pitcher is going to pitch you or what you look for. Hey, we've been around guys like yourself. Like, it's great for us. I was more of a leadoff type. You're more 3-4 hole. We bounce ideas off of each other. We room together. So it'll talk about, hey, they're going to pitch you different than they're going to pitch me.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see me struggle, what am I doing? And then when I see you struggle, what are you doing? And that way you can kind of counterbalance each other. So I go to tell our teams all the time is try to find somebody that compares to you throughout the lineup and see how they're pitching those guys, because that's probably how they're going to pitch you. And then once you can understand that, now you've going back again is you've made the coach in the other dugout have to come up with a new game plan because you're ready for it. And we say it all the time, but this game is all about adjustments. And as soon as you make that adjustment, and it has to be pitch to pitch, it can't be game to game anymore. It can't be at bat to at bat. Make the adjustment pitch to pitch and just focus. Like Jeff was saying again, I mean, we keep going back to Jeff, but he was playing at the highest level of baseball, an all-star, rookie of the year. And just to hear what he says is how much he talked about being focused each and every at bat. Like, say kids have 60 at-bats this summer. Like, just imagine focusing 60 at-bats. That's it, 60 at-bats, and where you're going to be at. And I promise you're going to be sitting back at the end of August going, man, that was the best summer I ever had, just because I was physically focused each at-bat. And I wasn't worried about talking to my buddy about what we're doing tonight at Dave & Buster's or what hotel we're staying in or swimming and stuff like that. So I'm glad you brought up a point about the on-deck process. As soon as you get up there, you're already in the game. So don't be looking back here. Don't be looking in the stands. Let's focus on that pitcher.
Yep. Yeah. And that's that right there, you know, when Jeff touched on that, and we talk about this all the time, like, don't give up ABs. And the summers are long. And I was kind of getting on our guys about hustling in our third scrimmage. Cause you know, first 2 days, guys were 100%
excited.
Yeah. I mean, we're back out here. And then, you know, that newlywed feeling kind of goes away, and guys get kind of stuck into this, like, hey, like, we're here now, we're doing this. And like, hey, like, we're still going to hustle. When we're in between the white lines, we're going to hustle. We're still taking every pitch like it's important. And that's one thing that guys, you know, you can't give away pitches. You can't give away ABs. You got to treat everyone focused. You only have 3 ABs a game, you know, 4 if you're doing well as a team. You know, you got to make the best out of every single AB. And I can remember, like you mentioned about relating to somebody, Joel Collins, catcher at South Alabama. And I can't remember. I know he was there my freshman and sophomore year. Was he gone by the time you got there, drafted?
Yeah, he was gone. So he was there. Yeah, he was gone.
Yeah, I think he got drafted. I think it was like early. It was like 12th, 13th round or something like that. Awesome dude, awesome individual. Give him a shout out here. But like he would, after I get an AB, I'd come in and be like, hey, what's his movement? Like, what is he 12-6 on that curveball, or is it more 2-7? Like, where's he at? Where's he throwing you? And he would ask questions all the time. And it wasn't just with me. He'd ask questions with everybody. And he's obviously was a catcher. So that was things that he was thinking about ahead of time. And he was ahead mentally with a lot of guys, because he was thinking about that stuff. Like, hey, what's this guy doing? And he wasn't asking like, oh, like you were saying, he's like, oh, is this guy disgusting? Like, yeah. Don't like, hey, you're damn good too. You know, you're going to beat this guy that's damn good as well. Like, that's the mindset you got to be. But you're just trying to get an approach of what this guy's trying to do, because we all have an approach. You know, and it's kind of like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Yep. You know, like, hey, let's make an adjustment here. Instead of doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and getting beat, let's make an adjustment and let's beat this pitcher in the long run. But that's really good stuff. Is there anything else specifically that you've been working with guys lately? The last you guys haven't had a scrimmage yet. You guys have just kind of had the live ABs. I've seen those online a little bit.
Yeah, we just had the live ABs. Today is going to be our first official scrimmage. So I think guys, we have them at a max of 35 pitches. And then even so tonight, we're supposed to get rain tomorrow. Each kid's going to get an inning. And then say you have a 9-pitch inning, you're going to go to the bullpen to finish up. That reach your 35 pitches to kind of stretch you out a little bit there. We're batting all the way through. We were going to pick up, say, for the next game, wherever we left off. You mentioned the PO stuff is, as of now, we're giving everybody a chance. You'll start to see the guys that fall into it. And like I mentioned before, this is kind of my first time with this older age group. So this is when it's becoming popular, is what I would think. When did POs really kind of start? What age would you think?
So at 16, that sophomore year, like freshman year,
Okay.
like there may be one or two freshman year of high school that they're not hitters, and they know they're not, and those guys kind of fall in naturally. And then that sophomore year, and I'll kind of break this down a little bit, but like, and I heard a very profound individual in the baseball community say, like, giving a guy a PO is hurting him. Like I don't like hearing people with that way of thinking, because, and I'm going to break it down why, is if I've got, young Johnny here that has a chance to play college baseball, and I'm going to give away his ABs to somebody that's not going to play college baseball as a hitter, I'm not doing my due diligence. If this guy's going to pitch the next level and his hitting is below average for the next level, I'm hurting this kid by not allowing him to get ABs by showing, I don't want to say favoritism, but by allowing somebody else to do that. Now, if it's a pitcher, like we had Zach Thompson, who was drafted first round by Kentucky, he was a two-way guy for me at 16. The guy mashed and he crushed, right? I mean, the guy, I can remember right now, I'm thinking ahead, like we had bases loaded in Atlanta at WWA, and he crushed a double off the wall. And against Houston Heat, I think is who it was. It was a good program. Like there are a lot of guys that, if I want to develop somebody, and this is something else that's kind of overlooked, if you're a two-way guy and you're definitely going to pitch in college and you're not really necessarily a hitter. And when I say not necessarily a hitter, like if you hit 80 mile an hour guys, cool, great, awesome. But can you hit the 88 guys? Can you hit the 85 plus guys? And there's a guy that's at Morehead State right now that was a two-way guy at 17 white in the Indiana Bulls, which I don't like saying this. Like there's black team and white team. Black team's our A team, white team is our B team. But I don't like saying it's a B team because we've played the white team and they've beaten us before. Like if we do our jobs recruiting the best players in the state of Indiana, like our white team's legit. And we've had as many as 9 guys on our second team go D1. And that's some things that are overlooked. But anyways, he went to college in the fall, and I was just talking to his dad the other day, and he was like, man, I knew I was a two-way guy and going into college. And then as soon as I showed up at college, like, there's no way I was a two-way guy. I was not going to be able to hit.
It's a different level.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, guys have that. And I respect that mindset that, hey, you can do anything. You can kill it. I respect that mindset wholeheartedly. But also you got to look at the aspect of things. If you're a pitcher and you're going to be a pitcher and you maybe you haven't committed yet, say you're playing a game at third base and then, you're going to pitch the next day and your velocity isn't where you want it to be. Well, there's a reason for that. You're playing day in and day out. Your arm, you're like this all summer and your body's getting tired, whereas a PO, every single outing, you are mentally, physically prepared for every outing that you're going to have. When you're going to throw, you're doing everything in between, and you can maximize your fastball velocity, working on all your pitches. There's a lot more time to do other things and see the game from a completely different point of view. So there's a lot of aspects that go into being a PO that people don't understand. And like I said before, if somebody is a dude that can hit, like we got another guy that was a two-way guy for me last year, a bunch of people said he wasn't going to hit. And I saw him hit in BP. I'm like, this guy can swing it. And he ended up being one of our top hitters. Like I think it was one of our top 4 hitters last year, and he's going to pitch at Michigan. And he could definitely, I think he could be a two-way guy at a smaller D1 school, but it's things like that. Like obviously everybody's an each individual and you kind of change things up, but like that junior year is like, if there's somebody can hit a little bit, that junior year is like, hey, like we're going to really, like, if you're going to be a pitcher, we're going to treat you like a pitcher. We're going to prep you like a pitcher, and we're going to give our hitters the ABs that they deserve.
And maybe in high school you are hitting for your high school team. But
absolutely.
When you're on a team like the Bulls or the Knights organization, where it's supposed to be the top guys around that whole Indiana area, Midwest, as well as down here in the Southeast, is like you're somewhat of the best. And so it's okay if, hey, maybe I don't hit my summer, but I get to bat 5, 6, 7, and whatever it is in the high school game. So that's perfectly fine. I'm so glad that you hit on not being physically exhausted, because I pitched in high school. I mean, I center field, I come in and close. I would get so tired pitching. I don't know what it is about that exert energy, but I would get so exhausted. So there's no way I could play a whole summer trying to do both and still feel 100%. So I'm so glad you hit on that.
Yeah. And that's the reason why, like, a two-way guys, I'll throw them later in the weekend a lot of times, because if I throw them early, their arms are jacked and they're ripped for the rest of the weekend. And now I'm not doing a due diligence to that kid if he can't throw across the diamond or throw from the outfield. Now, outfield's a little bit different because you're only going to make a couple hard throws a game unless you're facing a team that's ripping it. But, like you got to see things the way they are. And like you said before, there are guys that want to be two ways, and not to, float our boat, but the Bulls are the top travel baseball program in the state of Indiana, if not the best in the Midwest. And if you're not hitting for your high school, what makes you think you're going to be a two-way guy for travel ball? And if you are hitting for your high school, if you're hitting 250 for your high school, what makes you think with the best players in the state of Indiana, you're going to do that? And I'm kind of getting a little tough love right now, but those are conversations. Yeah, those are conversations that you got to have. And I will say this, 99% of the time it's the parents. The parents want the kid to hit during the summer. And I get it. It is what it is. But, most of the time the kids understand it. I could give a million examples. Yeah.
And while you hit on that, I want to kind of bring up to listeners is like this going back to, I think it might have been Dan. I don't know. I'm not too sure which one it was, but talking about comparing their player to another player. So don't be, if your son's not batting because he's considered a PO, gosh, he would hit better if he was in the lineup than Jeff over there is doing. So don't get into that whole thing because I think the more you talk about it and the more I kind of dive into this is these talks happen at home, like during dinner. And when you're talking with your athlete in front of your parents, you're going to have the parent eyes on. So it's, I wish I would get a chance to hit. Well, I think you should. Then all of a sudden it gets in his head. So now he's thinking, he's not worried about his pitching standpoint anymore. He's worried about why isn't he hitting because this other guy over here is hitting 180 or whatever it is from that standpoint. So don't get into that debate of comparing yourself to other guys on the
team. Absolutely. And there's a lot. It's just like, that Monday morning quarterback, like everybody from the outside can be the best player in the world and they would hit 350. But, and again, like as all of our guests have heard, I've said, like, baseball's hard and hitting is hard and people forget that. And a lot of times parents will get, not to offend parents right now, but the parents who get so pissed off when there's a little bit of mistakes here and there by their players and they're struggling, or they see other people that they think their kid is better on, 99% of the time that parent did not play at a high level. And there are some that did that feel like their son is better, and fine, more power to you, no big deal. But just know, like, if you're getting pissed off at every single time your kid struggles at something, or you're getting pissed off because you think your kid is better than somebody else, like, let your son prove it, because at the end of the day, like, and it's something to say, like, if your son's a dude, he's going to play. It is what it is. Like, if there's a conversation about it, obviously there's some weaknesses there. But I had to say that right there because it just irritates me sometimes.
No, it's true. And I'm glad you hit on tough love, because I like to use it, kind of flip it around and say love tough. Like, we love you, but we're going to tell you with the truth, and we're going to be hard on you. And this is what you kind of need to hear. And I think that's honestly why people respect us so much. And we have a few haters out there that might leave a 1-star review. Yeah, you might.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. Oh man. So me and Adam were talking the other day, and so we got a bunch of 5-star reviews, and we got this one guy that left he's probably in his mom's basement, pretty upset, and left us a 1-star review out of 5. And no offense to him, he might be the smartest guy in the world, but if he is really smart, I would love to listen to him come on the podcast, man. We'd love to have you on, because all these guests, like big leaguers, top college coaches in the country. Yeah. Leave those guys a 1-star, bro. That's good.
Just tell us why it was a 1-star, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, if you didn't like it, man, I have no problem, man. If you didn't like it, like, hey, explain why, because that way we can do a better job for you guys that are listening. So the people, 100%. And also, and on the flip script, if you guys are giving us a 5-star, tell us why. Like, tell us, and the people that are listening to this, like, basically you could say how to prepare for summer baseball is this title for this episode. And if there's things that we're missing out or things that you guys want to know, hey, send us an email at lairdstraining@gmail.com. And it's a Heisler Heat baseball at gmail.com.
Heislerheat@gmail.com.
Heislerheat@gmail.com. And I don't respond to DMs, just to let you guys know already, because I just, there's other things, I have more important things to do. And not to say that you're not important. I'm just saying, like, I don't see them because I don't check my DMs. And sometimes I do, and I will respond when I do. But I'm just an old school guy when I check in the emails and stuff like that. Because again, we want to be the best that we can at this podcast, and we'll kind of wrap it up here. This hour just flew by.
I know it.
Yeah. But like, and if you guys really like episodes like this, we're definitely going to do a lot of episodes like this, especially in the summertime when we're trying to go from game to game and training to training. And we're going to have some pretty cool guests on the next couple of weeks. But we'll throw on episodes like this all the time and break stuff down. I know one of my dads wants us to kind of address weighted balls. Constantly wants us to address, like, when should you, long toss, like what go into more depth about long toss and stuff like that. We're definitely going to address all that stuff, guys. We're planning on doing this for a long time, so to give you guys as much as possible. So again, hey, leave whatever review you want. Just explain to us why you left that review. We would love to listen to and kind of get your opinion on things and listen to constructive criticism. But at the same time, like, hey, if you enjoy what we're doing, definitely leave us that 5-star review. We'd greatly appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to add on to that, Adam?
Yeah, I really want to hit on just, if there's stuff we can get better at, please let us know, because we would definitely want to make this the best podcast out there for listener standpoint of just interaction. We want to be all about interaction with answering questions, whatever you have. It's not always, I'm so glad we did this. It's not always just about what hot new guests we're bringing on to let them tell their story. We really enjoy talking baseball with them, but mainly we do that for listeners to hear, as opposed to coming out of our mouths, because they hear us say some stuff all the time. So it's really cool to hear from guys at the highest level, whether it's coaching or playing, to be talking about that aspect there. So, no, this was an awesome one. Like, I think we sent a message the other day just kind of asking, hey, who do you want to bring on? We have some guys lined up, and I think we both agreed, hey, let's just do one like we did to kick off this whole thing. So It was really cool to kind of catch up, sit down, talk about things, some plans for the summer. I love how you're preparing for the summer ball title. I think that's going to nail this one perfect, and this was just a lot of fun. So definitely leave that 5-star review if you enjoyed it, and leave us a comment, subscribe, do all of the above.
Absolutely, guys. And till next time, guys, we'll see you later.